The whole point is that right now companies have these things, and that's what we do. We send them requests and they have our data. A blockchain is a new type of database where instead of companies owning and controlling the data, everyone owns it, and people share it across the world.
I feel like now we should focus on blockchain, what that feels like. What, like, we're so on the outside, like on the inside. You said it was 1999 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Did it pop or what? I don't even know. Like on the inside, what is it like right now?
Pop.
Yeah.
I was right before we hopped on, because Ethereum was all my friends were talking about in, again, 2018. I went on and just typed in Ethereum price, and it looks like the .com bubble, right? It hit $1,300 for a coin or whatever. You're going to have to explain that to me in 2018. And now, yes, it's trending up, but it's a fifth of that. So
exactly. Yeah, it is. It's a story. We'll start from the beginning, and let's start with the basics.
Yes.
And then we'll go, okay, what for context here, we're going to start with what this all is. And then by the end of it, we're going to be talking about Yam Coin, Spaghetti Coin, and Cream.finance. And you're going to want to learn about all that. But first, I guess, like the first thing we have to talk about is there's cryptocurrencies and then there's blockchain. So do you guys, blockchain's like has a weird association with it, but do you guys know what blockchains are, or do you want me to explain like what that actually means?
Please.
Let me give my understanding, and then you can correct me as I go wrong. Because I've tried to, last 24 hours, I've just been cramming for an exam on this, basically.
It's like, studying for a test. Yeah.
Exactly. So blockchain solving this problem of we normally need people, these third parties, to verify any sort of transaction, any sort of, transaction that goes on between two people or two entities. And then this dude, Nakamoto, what's his name?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, some dude or group, or no one knows what this thing is. They make blockchain, which is basically replacing the humans and the third party with a computer, and algorithms can figure out like if this transaction happens, you don't need people to verify. And it does it through a bunch of computers all verifying that it happened. That's the secret sauce, I think. But there's a lot of gaps there, so start filling in.
I mean, in general, that's it, right? A blockchain is really just a new type of database. So right now, every company, everything we do uses databases, right? This Zoom call is being stored in one right now. Everything you use is connected to some database that is controlled by some company. And what that looks like in real life, that sounds kind of abstract, but what that literally is, Facebook has databases, for example. What that literally is a big warehouse of computers somewhere in like Nevada or Ohio or Florida or London. It's massive rooms of computers all around the world that these companies operate. Amazon
mostly Amazon, right? Amazon Web Services.
Exactly. So then you get to like the next level up where a company will rent those computers to other companies. But the whole point is they're big rooms of computers, and they hold data.
Are those servers?
Exactly.
It's just a bunch of servers in a database. Is that, because I've always heard, I think Naval Ravikant said like databases is just so fundamental to understanding all computer science. And I still don't understand what that is.
Yeah.
Is it a warehouse of servers? Is that what it is? Or?
It's kind of both. Servers are basically like the things that accept requests and then spit you back data. So the data is just on this big computer and in lots of rows of info, just piles of info. A server you can ping it with the request, say like, I want this, and the server will go into the database, get what it needs, and give it back to you. But
the server's in between a computer and a database.
Exactly.
That's the protocol is when they're like how you communicate and get that info.
The protocol is the set of instructions for how to communicate. So it's like we all need to. This is getting like very into
I'm just
it.
looking at Dylan and I like server database.
yeah, exactly.
I feel like no one understands this. Except for maybe like 1% of people out there.
Yeah, it's crazy because we use it all the time and no one knows. And you don't really need to know. The whole point is that right now companies have these things, and that's what we do. We send them requests and they have our data. A blockchain is a new type of database where instead of companies owning and controlling the data, everyone owns it, and people share it across the world. So all it is it's like a big Google Doc that anyone can anonymously edit. And there's like specific rules for what you're allowed to do. If you try to break the rules, people are going to yell at you and you're not going to be able to do it.
Is it physical people? Because I know if like you break the rules on Reddit, there are like some bots that take care of that, the moderators.
Yeah.
Are there literally physical people saying like you can't write that?
No, and that's the beauty. Like you said, Dylan, it's all just an algorithm. It's a set of encoded rules in code saying this is the set of instructions that we will accept. If you don't follow this code, then it won't be accepted. And it's just a big network of computers around the world. So in my room right now, I could be running a node, or you could be running one. But basically, instead of all of us going to the Amazon database, we go directly to each other. So the whole point, like you said, is we're taking out third parties and we're letting people communicate directly with each other. That's the thing you actually need to care about.
If I wanted info from you, Ian, then instead of me having to go to say Amazon, ask Amazon for your info or whatever, we can just talk directly to each other.
Exactly. So what you would do is you broadcast a message on the internet to the blockchain. Some miner, we're getting into the technical weeds here, but someone running one of these nodes who's like running the blockchain in their house will pick it up and they'll see, did you follow the rules? If you did, your message gets added to the blockchain. And then on my end, I say, oh, Dylan just got this message added. Let's see what he said. Okay, he did this. I'm going to respond in whatever way. And we just repeat the process.
Are people using it like that? Because all I ever hear about is ICOs, right?
Exactly.
Like the money aspect. Are people like really transacting like that?
Yeah. So that's the interesting part. So we've just, talked about how it works, but that's kind of the same thing as talking about like, what is HTTP? When you go to a website and you see that, or like, what does .com mean? HTTP is it's a hypertext. It's hypertext protocol, yeah, and that's just it's a rules set for how computers talk to each other. And because we need a standard, right? Because if you're trying to send something to another computer and it just doesn't look the way it's supposed to, that other computer's not going to know what to do with it.
You're speaking gibberish and it's waiting for English.
Exactly. It's just a way. So as humans, it's just easy for us. If we all agree on like a way to do things, it's easier for us to build around that. So what, all that stuff with the transactions and the nodes and everything, that's like the low level. But the beauty of all this is on top of that, we've built these things called cryptocurrencies, and that's what Bitcoin is. And that's where things start getting fun. And they're basically an alternative to money. And that's why these things are interesting. It's a global way to represent money that isn't controlled by a government. It's not controlled by a company. It's controlled by just people. And that's where you can start to get pretty wild with all this stuff.
Yeah, because normally you need, I guess you need like a PayPal or something. Like, for example, right now we have a team in the Philippines, and sending money, we'd go through PayPal. But in theory, I could just have a little code, I guess through Ethereum would be the best way, or just send Bitcoin, whatever. Yeah. And it's just like every week, send this amount to this person. And then all these computers verify that it happened. It's locked in the blockchain throughout all of history. Exactly. Everyone will be able to see that.
Yeah, forever. And it's so one thing I like to think about is kind of what is money, right? Like we talk about money all the time. We talk about the US dollar. But not a lot of people ever think about what that actually is. So money is three, like if you look in a textbook, it's three things. It's a unit of account. It's a means of exchange, and it's a store of value. You can immediately forget all that. But when we moved up the gold standard, we moved into something called fiat currency, which is just the dollar that we have today. You know, you have in your wallet or your bank account. And what fiat currency is, it's literally just currency where the worth is based on perceived value of supply and demand. So that's a complicated way of saying we all just kind of believe this has value, so it does. And that's why the US dollar is so strong globally, because in today's world, your money is as valuable as the perceived value of your economy, right? So that's why if you go to any country in the world, you can spend a US dollar because everyone knows the US is, producing a lot. Therefore, we believe that the dollar is good. But if you go to Venezuela, you use their currency as toilet paper because it's absolutely useless because the inflation is, 10,000%. And you're better off lighting fires with the dollar than actually spending it to buy anything because it's worth nothing because their economy has issues. And we can get into Venezuela specifically.
Let's do it. But is Bitcoin in that sense more like gold and silver?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So that's the analogy you want to think about. It's a store of value, just like money, that is based on perceived supply and demand. So, you go on any app, go on Cash App, go on whatever, Square, and you see a price of Bitcoin. That's literally just because there's a market of people around the world and we value it, based on what we think it's good for. So in that case, it's like digital gold. And there's no piles of, if you go to the Fed in Boston, New York, there's literally piles of gold sitting there. It's going to seem ridiculous in like 100 years that we just sat on like piles of rocks and we're like, this is worth a lot of money. Cause like, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like pretty dumb when you think about it.
It's so silly. These are my rocks.
Exactly.
Look how many I have.
Yeah. We keep them in piles and they're even, my friends work at the Fed and they say like people arrange them in like chairs and stuff. Like it's stupid. It's literally like, it's like making a throne of natties, but it's gold. And we say it's worth, so much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that sense, it's, it's like a digital gold. And that's why it's starting to get interesting because now you have this thing that just lives on the internet and then kids in their bedrooms can do crazy things with all this money, which, I'll talk a little bit about, but it's totally new and it's crazy.